Branthony Newtano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Roux album, Trouble in Paradise. Roux is an electropop and a synth pop project hailing from the UK and is fronted by, spearheaded by, masterminded by songwriter, singer, keyboardist, Elly Jackson. Her debut album as Roux dropped in 2009, and off of this album some of the best pop singles of the aughts came, like Quicksand and Bulletproof, a song that every once in a while I still hear on the radio to this day, which is a lot of mileage for a modern pop song in an age where everything just seems so in and out and disposable. I did find myself being more enamored with the singles of this record than I was with the record itself, than I was the deeper cuts. But I was looking forward to whatever Roux was doing in the future because there was a lot of talent on this record. I thought Jackson's voice was great. I liked the aesthetic of the project. It had a vintage 80s synth pop flair to it, totally new wave, yet there was something really modern and punchy about the electro style production. Now, my anticipation of this new record has been heightened by a few things. One, the fact that we've essentially had to wait about 5 years to hear this record. Two, we have the loss of Ben Langmaid as an official member of Roux, which was essentially a duo up until this point. And then some really great singles, I think, built up to the release of this album. Let Me Down Gently and Uptight Downtown. Keep in mind, I haven't heard anything single-wise on this album that I think is going to have the staying power and the virality of Bulletproof, but I still think Roux brings a really great no-frills pop album with 9 songs to the table. The rhythms, the instrumentation, the melodies, the lead vocals, it's all sharp. And the songs here essentially tell a series of tales of the highs and the lows of love. The song Paradise Is You is essentially about being obsessed and infatuated with that one special person and seeing literally paradise in being with that person. Or there's Cruel Sexuality, which seems to be depicting a relationship where sex is a bit of a bargaining chip or a weapon or something that one can use control against the other person in the relationship. There's a very telling refrain at the end of this track where Jackson is singing, "You make me happy in my everyday life, but why do you keep me in this prison at night?" And then there's the song Sex Attack, where Jackson is singing about this guy who seems to be pursuing sex with strangers or even insinuating sex with prostitutes over having sex with his significant other. Jackson is definitely in the same mental state when it comes to the world of love and heartbreak, betrayal. And if you want to hear a song on this record that sort of works outside of that storyline, you're kind of out of luck, outside of the song Uptight Downtown. And this infatuation with love makes total sense for this album, I think, because the title is Trouble in Paradise, a phrase that people typically use to depict a bit of choppy water or some difficulties in a relationship, and they're sort of the outsider, and then, I don't know, they see a couple fight and they're thinking, oh, trouble in paradise. I'm a total jerk. And Roux depicts many flavors of trouble across these songs. And the paradise angle that comes through in the title is displayed in the instrumentals, I feel, which have a very blissful, nostalgic feel to them. Jackson is sounding more inspired by 80s style synth pop than ever. There are beats on this record that remind me of Simple Minds, or Depeche Mode, or maybe a little bit of Human League, or Blondie, maybe a little bit of Prince too. The very punchy, sort of aggressive electro vibe in the instrumentals seems to have kind of melted away, which unfortunately might hurt Roux as this international radio pop phenom, but it has added up into a very great listenable record. I think the songs and the instrumentals on this record are pretty diverse, though they all stay in line with that vintage synth pop vibe, and it feels old enough to be a little nostalgic, but the focus is never lost on just making a good tune, because the truth is, a lot of the songs on this record could be dressed in numerous styles of production and it would still be catchy. Uptight Downtown, I love the shimmering, echoey, bouncy guitars on this thing, the beat, the bass line. When I hear this instrumental, I see in my head a Michael Jackson style choreography routine with maybe some zombies or something like that. The song Kiss and Not Tell, very cute, peppy melody on this track. Beep, beep, beep. Then there's Silent Partner, one of the most urgent instrumentals on this entire record, and a very interesting instrumental galloping instrumental interlude on the back end of this track. It's the longest song on the record at 7 minutes, and LaRue really explores just doing a bit of instrumental flair as opposed to just simply delivering a verse, chorus, and a verse and a chorus. Some songs I just like more than others. Some songs have just very minute issues with them that I don't totally care for, like maybe a bass line that's a little lazy or a little offbeat, or even the verse vocals on the song Tropical Chancer, not the most thrilling melody on the record. Usually the verses on this record are pretty sharp, just as catchy as the choruses, but in this particular track, not really. The only song on this record that I flat out do not like, I mean literally this album from track 1 to track 8 is stellar. The only track I don't like is the closer, The Feeling. Totally and utterly disappointed with this song, not only as a finisher, but as a song as well. Completely lackluster ballad. The melody just jumps around really awkwardly, sort of like it's just not sure of what it wants to be. And on top of that, you have Jackson singing in falsetto, not the prettiest side of her range, and trying to sort of harmonize with herself with a background vocal. It does not sound all that great. The bass drum is barely audible, the bass line is barely audible, the snare drum in the beat is just way louder than I would expect it to be. It's just like this album is taking a chance on inviting a complete stranger to one of your parties, and they're a fantastic, amazing guest, life of the party, and just as they're about to leave, they just go face first into the door. But everything leading up to that point is really good. Yeah, I don't think Jackson has the most original or distinct voice of all time. This is a pop record, bunch of songs about love. It's not really reinventing the wheel. It's not going to push the envelope. But if you're looking for a new synth pop record with a vintage flair and quality songs nearly front to back, then I say listen to this. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this thing. Transition. If you've given this record a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, LaRue, Trouble in Paradise, forever. A tropical dancer, but it turns out that he was a dancer. A tropical dancer, but it turns out that he was a dancer.